All right, welcome back to the Copperlux Homes Buyer Academy. This here is module number 6, and we're going to be covering the BINSR. It's the Residential Buyer Inspection Notice and Seller Response. So you just learned in module number 5 all about the inspection. So that's where we get a third party out there to inspect the property. And then once they inspect the property, we get a list of items. And it's usually broken down into three different categories. And that will look like items that need to be fixed or need to be addressed right now. There's items that have a potential to get worse if they don't get fixed, and then just some maintenance items. And then so we, as the buyer, have an opportunity to submit to the seller a list of items that we're asking for them to fix right here. Now, there are some properties that you're going to come across and there's no major repairs. There's nothing. These houses are very, very rare. They're unicorns out there, but there are some. I mean, even in new homes, you still have a little bit of inspections to do. So again, this gives the buyer an opportunity to submit to the seller items that need to be repaired. Now, the way that I handle a BINSR to a seller is I say less is more on this sheet. Okay, less is more. What I mean by that is the big ticket items that are going to be either FHA appraisal items or conventional appraisal items that are going to need to be addressed. That's what I typically ask the seller to do. And then any additional items that the buyer seems that they want to ask for. Now, I do get BINSRs back with 30, 40 line items, and I'm about to show you a real world example right here. But before I get into that, as a listing agent looking and seeing all of these repairs right here, it's a little bit overwhelming. And the seller then turns to the listing agent and says, well, they're asking for everything. This is a US house, give them nothing. So you kind of get a little bit of an attitude from the seller when you submit this big long list of items for repairs. That's why if you keep it nice and short, keep the big items, the big ticket items, we can say, hey, seller, guess what? These are most likely going to become an appraisal issue. So let's go ahead and address them now before we get to the appraisal. Buyer pays $500 and then these items come up, and then now there's a reinspection fee, and it just opens up a whole nother can of worms. So what we do is we make sure that this here is a one shot, get the big ticket items fixed, and then let the minor problems get covered in a home warranty later on after close of escrow. So you can see here, contract dated. This here will be when the contract was finalized or escrow started. Okay, that's when the contract date is. Seller here, buyer here, and then the address. Now down here we have 3 different boxes. Okay, so we can do premises accepted, no corrections requested. Like I said, these are unicorn homes. I've never had a BINSR one time in my 14 years of selling real estate that we just didn't put anything. Premises rejected. Premises rejected, this here is going to be, major foundation repairs or major repairs that you think is just going to affect the house and you just don't want to sell them, or you don't want the seller to fix them. Because remember, what becomes an item that we know about now has to become disclosed on the seller property disclosure statements when you, the buyer, goes to sell this home. So just keep that in mind. And then buyer elects to provide seller an opportunity to correct or address the disapproved items listed below. And then this here again is where we put the list. Okay. As I flip the page over and I slide over to this page here, you can see that the list is continued on all the way down here. And then we submit our signatures here as the buyer. Now, buyer's waiver of inspections. Okay. We were seeing this during COVID. Okay, we were waiving repairs, we were waiving appraisals, we were waiving a lot of different things because there was 20 people lined up to buy that home. I would never ask anybody to waive their inspection at all. I would never ever inform or educate my buyers to do that, so you wouldn't ever be looking at this line. And then what happens is those repairs get submitted over, and then now it becomes the seller. So seller agrees to correct the addressed items. Okay, seller is unwilling or unable to And then again, seller's response to the buyer's notice is as followed. And then that's where the response will be here, okay? So what this might look like is seller says, hey buyer, I see the list of repairs that you're asking us to do. We'll go ahead and we'll complete all those, or we'll complete some and then give you a credit in lieu of the repairs, or we'll just give you a credit for the lieu of repairs and not fix anything, or they can flat out say, I'm not going to fix nothing. Okay, so that's kind of what the seller's response there. And then, of course, it comes down here to the buyer's election, and then we have the final say. We submitted all of our repairs to the seller. Seller gave us their response. And now, as the buyer, do we want to go ahead and cancel this contract, or do we accept the seller's response and then we move forward to the appraisal? Okay, so now we just covered right here the BINSR. This here is what happens after the home inspection, and this is an opportunity for the buyer now to submit the repairs to the seller. Now I'm going to show you what a real world BINSR looks like, okay? And I just blacked everything out because, again, I don't want to disclose any of the information for the parties of this. But you can see right here, okay, buyer elects to provide the seller an opportunity to correct the items listed below. Okay, 1.1 right here. Okay, it says roof appears to be close or beyond its typical life expectancy. So they're asking us to go ahead and fix the layment on the roof. Okay, 1.12, buyers requesting to replace cracked tiles. 1.13, buyers requesting the dislodged tiles to be replaced. 1.14, roof coverings, buyer requesting roof evaluated by a roofing contractor. 1.15, roof coverings, buyer requesting to have drainage materials be removed. 1.121, flashing penetrations, loose missing eave flashing, buyer requests to replace or fix loose eaves. So you can see right here from 1.11 all the way down to 1.21, this here is all roof related, okay? Now, I agree with this to a certain extent. Now, the cracked tiles, the dislodged tiles, okay, this is covered in a roofing maintenance package, which is going to be $495 from our roofing company that we have, okay? $495. It covers up to 20 cracked tiles, mortar joints. It does all of that stuff. Now, it appears to be close or beyond its typical life expectancy, okay? Buyers are requesting for a licensed roofing contractor to evaluate the roof to provide replacement costs, if any. Evaluation report is sent to the buyer's agent. Repairs to be performed by licensed contractor if needed. Now, I love this verbiage, performed by licensed contractor if needed, because now we have an ROC. Now we have insurance contractor, and now we can go after a contractor if they do faulty work. So I love that, and you will see that in our BINSRs. Now, in this typical situation, they're asking for a roofing company to come out here, provide the roofing maintenance, and then look at the underlayment. I love this, okay? This is great. Now, 4.21, attic insulation. Buyers are requesting additional insulation to be installed that will help reduce electric bills and extend life of the air conditioning units. So it's very, very common in homes, because we have the blown-in cellulose insulation, that it settles over time. Okay? It has to be at a standard 11 to 13, I believe is the standard. Sometimes you'll see it at 3, 4, 5, and then they will ask for more insulation to be blown in. Now this can get very, very costly, and so what we have to do is we have to get our inspectors out there and see exactly how far down it is, and the cost of it, and kind of weigh out the pros and cons of that. But I do absolutely love this because, again, it's taken in the buyer's best needs. And out here, the air conditioner, it runs pretty much 10 months out of the year, so we want to make sure that it's running efficiently. Okay, now we get down into here. We have 6.11, fixtures, faucets, basins. Loose toilets were loose. Buyer requesting to have loose toilets fixed or replaced if needed. Now, this is a simple little bolt on the side of the toilet. All it needed to do was be tightened down. The caulking, the seal, everything remained the same. So I would not ask for that. That is very, very little maintenance items. Okay. 6.21, drain, waste, vents, piping. Buyer request to fix leaky drains. 6.22, drain, waste, venting pipes. Buyer requesting to service clean sink drain lines. All right, so what they'll do is they'll put the stopper in, they'll apply water into the basin, they'll have that pressure on, then they'll undo the stop, and then see how fast that water drains out. Now, in this case, what happens is the homeowner went in there, snaked it, and there was some hair in there, and it's all done. Now, that's very, very minimal maintenance items. I would not put those. 6.23, drain, waste bin, piping buried. Sewer cleanout, buyers requesting cleanouts to be located and exposed cleanouts for ease of access. Okay, as a homeowner, the seller, typically you know where those are. So I would call up the buyers, or I would call up the listing agent and say, hey, can your home seller please go out there and then locate the cleanouts? So I don't think that should be on there as well. 6.51, water heater manufacture date, year of 2006. Buyer requesting water heater to be replaced. Water heater is beyond its anticipated service life. Now, this here opens up a can of worms, because when we're selling the home, is the hot water working right now today? Yes, it is. Okay, is it beyond its life, manufacturer life? Sure, but is it working? Yes, it's working great. There's no problems, there's no leaks, there's nothing. So then the seller is going to say, well, they are buying a used home. Why do they want me to spend $1,200 on a brand new water heater? So you can see kind of where now the seller is starting to get in their feelings, because they're asking for kind of some of this little stuff, and now they're asking for just proactive items. So that way, when they get the house, yes, everybody wants a brand new water heater, but does the seller would just want to go proactively, just spend money when the hot water heater is still currently working? This here is where the items are covered under the home warranty. And as your agent, your buyer's agent, I always give you guys a home warranty as a free gift for using me as your realtor. So I would say we're not going to put that in there. It's working today as the inspection, close of escrow. It's automatically going to be covered in a real estate sale. So I would not put that item on there. Okay, 6.5.2, drip leg to be installed. Okay, if that is an item that the plumber or in this case the home inspector wants and needs to be done, then the drip leg, that probably needs to be done. So I would put that on instead of asking them to replace the whole entire hot water heater. Hot water source, corrosion, seeping at shutoff fittings. Buyer request for shutoff fittings to be repaired. Okay, a little corrosion, all you have to do is just clean those off. Typically is an O-ring, a little tiny seal. Again, it's not going to cause any type of problem to the hot water heater. There is a little corrosion. You'll see it. We live in Arizona. It's hard water. You're going to see corrosion buildup. It's the calcium buildup. So again, that's probably something that I would not put on there. Okay, 7.11, service entrance conductors. Damage entrance conduit. Buyers request to have a rubber boot be installed to correct the entrance conduit. Again, this falls under safety concern, electricity. So I would probably go ahead and put that on there. 8.2.1, heat equipment, furnace to be serviced and evaluated by an HVAC professional. Evaluation document to be sent to the agent. So heat equipment, furnace. Okay, this is an air conditioner tune-up. It's $100. All right. If there's anything that is saying that there's something wrong with the heater, is the heater working? If the heater is working, we're turning it on and off. Okay, they're not going to go up there and look at the coils. They're not going to take things apart. They're not going to do that. So for them to ask for that, I would not put that on a BINSR. 8.3.1, buyers requesting cooling equipment to be serviced by HVAC professional and evaluated if needed to be replaced. Evaluation documents into the buyer's agent. Okay, so what the home inspector does is he takes his little temperature gun and he points it at the returns, and the air coming in will be a different degrees than the air coming out. Okay, I believe that the common split is 19 to 21 degree difference. If you have that temperature that's coming out that is, like I said, that difference of 19 to 21 degrees, then there's no need to have all of this done. This is, again, maintenance items. If the seller is not maintaining their equipment properly, we're not going to go ahead and ask them to do all of this stuff. Okay, so now you have some of this, you have some of this, you have some of this. Now do you see where the seller's like, come on, why are they asking for all this stuff? Yeah, trust me, it happens all the time. 25% of homes will fall out of escrow because of the BINSR. Okay, so just keep that in mind. 8.3.2, service disconnect wire, cover plate to be installed, plate is missing. Okay. Again, I mean, it's a plate. They're $2 at Home Depot. I probably would not have that on there. Now, this guy coming out, if they did the service work to do the where is it? The conduit. If he's going to do the conduit, then I would throw this in there. Okay. So 4.1 AC splits. Buyer's request for the second floor AC system to be serviced by HVAC professional. In this case, it came in at 18, and that's how I know the 19 to 21. Uh, can we have someone come out there just to make sure the air conditioner units are great? Yes, absolutely. 9.1.1 kitchen, bathroom, laundry, venting, fan to be repaired, fan to be repaired or fan to be replaced to resolve fan that is unbalanced. Okay, that is one of those little laundry fans that sit on top of the ceiling. That is absolutely not an item that you need to put on the BINSR. Okay, 9.1.2 kitchen, bathroom, laundry, loud exhaust fan to be replaced or repaired. Again, you're not going to ask them to repair or replace a loud fan. Okay, those little fan units are $100 at Home Depot. It's just part of the maintenance. 9.1.3 kitchen, bathroom, laundry, dirty exhaust vents, covers to be cleaned out or replaced if needed. Okay, you can have a duct service company come out, but is that a fire hazard? Yes. Do we want the seller to go ahead if they're already going to be replacing, the roof, the insulation, okay, drip leg, conduit, okay, you know, can we just muster up a little bit of money and go ahead and pay for duct cleanings? Absolutely. And that's why real estate, you guys, it's a give and take on this. So if both parties are putting in skin in the game, then both parties win. Now we have a fiduciary to get the buyer the best possible deal we can, which is usually done on price, seller concessions, terms, things like that. Okay, once we start getting into some of this stuff, which is $300 to clean your ducts, I mean, the seller is not going to want to do that because chances are, we beat them up on the price already. We got the seller concessions we're asking for, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like in the end. And so we use a BINSR for big items. Keep that in mind. Okay, 10.7.1 fireplace chimney, faulty igniter to be repaired or replaced. Okay, that igniter switch is $50. It's not a major deal breaker in this situation. Again, I would not put that on there. 12.1.1 leaks in the pool water. Buyers request irrigation system leaks to be repaired and valve box valve to be repaired or replaced by qualified professional. Yes, absolutely. These are leaking. This was a leaking waterfall into the pool. It turns out that it was pulling up underneath. So this is an absolute mandatory huge item that ended up costing a lot of money to repair because I am the seller, I am the listing agent on this deal. Okay, 13.8.1 filtering cleaning, no cleaning system installed. Buyer's request for pool cleaning equipment to be purchased and installed by swimming pool contractor. Okay, in this case, they didn't have one of those little robots that went around. Okay, the home seller just went out there and brushed it, and they didn't have any pop-up irrigations. And what happened was their little robot had broken, and they didn't want to replace it because they knew that they were moving, and they were moving to a home that did not have a pool. So for asking them to buy the robot, I mean, again, it's one of those things. It's like, we can ask them for it, but again, if we're asking them for all these kind of big items, would it be nice to have a robot? Absolutely. But is it something that's going to affect the house? No, not necessarily. So in this case, I would not be putting that equipment, that little robot. Okay. And then the waterfall structure leak. Yeah. And then that's what I was talking about. So as you can see on here, if this was a buyer that I was representing and I saw this, I would put roof, insulation, electrical, and pool waterfall, and then irrigation. Okay, I would say you guys are buying the house. You guys, when you walk through this, you saw that there was no robot. Okay, just keep in mind you're going to have to buy a robot. Okay, cool. Instead of asking for all of this stuff. Okay, so do you see that there was 33 line items on this BINSR here, okay, 33. So all of this and all of this, okay? And then so when I presented this to my seller, you can see how overwhelmed they got instead of looking at something like this, okay? So they asked for $22,000 in lieu of repairs. Okay, we settled at 11. We settled at 11,950 for the repairs, and that just shows you that when you're hiring a professional real estate agent to negotiate on behalf of you, okay, this buyer's agent, they didn't know how to present a lot of these things, and when they got me on the other phone, I went ahead and I corrected them on a lot of this stuff, and then at the end of the day, the sellers and the buyers, came to an agreement at the 11,950. Both parties won, and we were able to overcome. But for asking for $22,000 is a little much. When really a lot of them are just basic maintenance items. Okay, so now this is for a buyer, but I'm just going to put you in the mind of a seller real quick. Okay, if the house is listed at 500,000, okay, and we're asking for 3% seller concessions, that's going to be $15,000 that seller is giving buyer. Okay, so now off the top, okay, they're going to be at 485 bottom line right now. Okay, and now you take 6% of this for commissions. Well, because of the lawsuit, I can't use that word anymore, but what the buyer's agent and the listing agent will make, okay, and then that comes out to 30,000. Okay, so now we're at 455 already. Okay, and then so now the seller is looking at another potential when they were asking us for 22,000. Okay, so now you can see that their bottom line keeps going down. Okay, and this is just the mind of a seller. Now, as I represent a buyer, I say, hey guys, look, on this BINSR, like I said earlier, less is more. So when you have, $22,000 in line items, but a lot of this stuff is maintenance, okay, it's a lot easier to overcome something that looks like this rather than something that's presented in a form that looks like this, because it's just extremely overwhelming. So that's how we tackle the BINSR, to put you in the mind of a seller, and then that way you can say, you know what, if I want to go ahead and I want the roof and I want all this major stuff, because again, guys, the home warranty that I give you is going to cover 95% of the stuff. Ice machines, washer, dryer, plumbing, electrical, all of that stuff that breaks. It even covers swimming pool equipment. It covers all the stuff. So get into the house, okay, get the major items fixed, and all the maintenance items become maintenance items. So I hope this helps navigate through the BINSR process. Again, this is module number 6. This is the BINSR. This is what we submit to the seller after the home inspection. So stay tuned for module number 7, because we overcome the BINSR, we get it signed, and that's when the lender then orders the appraisal. Once the appraisal comes in, all we are is waiting for the loan to get funded, and it's closing time. Okay, and then you'll learn about the final walkthrough after the appraisal video. So I hope this helps you. Education is key. I want my buyers to be the most educated buyers on this planet, and I want them to know exactly what all of these forms look like as you navigate this process. So stay tuned for module number 7, and I'll see you on the other side.